When the Pacers started Game 6 0 of 8 from the field, it felt like things might unravel before they even got a chance to get going. But Indiana did not panic. They locked in defensively, forced turnovers, and then once the shots started to fall, everything shifted. After a shaky close to the opening quarter, they absolutely erupted in the second. Over an 8-minute and 51-second stretch, Indiana went on a stunning 30-9 run, flipping the game on its head and walking into halftime with a commanding 22-point lead. From there, things went from bad to worse for Oklahoma City. The Thunder didn't score their first bucket of the second half until the 5:03 mark of the third quarter, nearly a full 7 minutes of game time, which is almost unheard of in an NBA Finals game. But by the time the fourth quarter rolled around and Indiana had built a 30-point buffer, the game was all but over. They had done what nobody expected them to do. Indiana had extended the series. Game 7 is officially happening. So in this video, let's take a step back and break everything down. We're going to look at the strengths and weaknesses of both teams, the blueprint of success for each team, and once it's all laid out, I'll give you my final prediction for who I believe will walk away with the championship. It's almost been a full decade since we had our last NBA Finals Game 7, and that one wasn't just memorable, it was iconic. The 2016 showdown between the Cavaliers and the 73-win Warriors gave us some of the greatest moments in NBA history, with Cleveland's historic 3-1 comeback. So when we say these moments don't come around often, I really mean it. Since 1974, only 10 finals have gone the distance. And finally, we have one. Game 7 is here, and we are finally getting it. For Oklahoma City, this isn't entirely unfamiliar territory. They've actually been in this exact same situation already once this postseason. Back in the second round against Denver, they went on the road with a 3-2 series lead, but then failed to close it out in Game 6 in Denver, having to return back home for a Game 7. In that one, they bounced back in dominant fashion, blowing the doors off the Denver Nuggets. But this time, the challenge will likely be even tougher. Indiana are playing with a different kind of fire right now, and they've proven time and time again in these playoffs that no moment is too big. If the Thunder are going to win this Game 7, it's going to start with tightening the screws on Indiana's offense. That means getting back to what Oklahoma City does best, forcing turnovers, flying around and being on point with your rotations, and offensively, they've got to keep the game out of a half-court setting, where Indiana's defense has been able to create chaos. In Game 6, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had one of the worst games of his playoff career, finishing with 8 turnovers. Actually, the most ever in a Game 6 of an NBA Finals. And a lot of those mistakes weren't because Indiana did something magical. They came from poor processing and just trying to force the issue. In Game 6, there were multiple plays where Shai rushed his decision making. On one play, if he had just slowed down here, waited half a second longer, he could have made the pass to Hartenstein, who would have drawn the help of Siakam, opening up a clean look for Chet Holmgren. But instead, he charged into traffic and loses the ball. Another time, he refused the elbow pull-up jumper and instead drove deeper into pressure, resulting in a turnover. You could just tell that he was pressing, not out of fear, but maybe because he was just trying too hard to will his team over the finish line. To be fair, it's probably the best problem a coach can have. But in a Game 7, it's not all about effort alone. It's about your decision making and overall execution. The key for Shai in Game 7 is going to be playing with more purpose and control. We've seen him at his best when he slows down, uses that bump fade to create the space, and then gets the step backs where defenders can't contest instead of those turnaround fadeaways he was trying to get to in Game 6. The Thunder's offense overall needs more poise and clarity, and really, it does start with their leader. But beyond that, the three-point shooting overall has to improve. Game 4 was dreadful, and Game 6 really wasn't that much better, with Oklahoma City shooting just 27% from beyond the arc. That will not cut it in a winner-takes-all setting. Still, it's important to remember that even though we often talk about OKC's offensive inconsistencies, their defense and then transition game off of the turnovers they force has been their true superpower all postseason. No team has turned defense into offense faster or more effectively. Think back to that Game 7 against Denver. They completely took Nikola Jokic out of the game by denying him the ball and punishing every single mistake Denver made with transition buckets. The bright lights of a finals Game 7 can really do strange things to young teams. It can rattle them, but it can also fuel them, especially if their identity is built around energy and effort. That is the advantage that I believe the Thunder have here. Game 6 felt flat, borderline lethargic, but with everything on the line, back in front of their home crowd that they can feed off of, the adrenaline is going to be there. But the question now is whether that energy can be channeled into smart decisions and overall cleaner execution. Because if it can, this Thunder team should still be the favorites to win Game 7. But as wild as it might sound, I really believe Oklahoma City has to make one serious adjustment. And it's not in terms of scheme or energy. They need to find a way to slow down TJ McConnell. He's not just a surprise spark off the bench anymore. He's not just an X factor. He is a constant, consistent factor. McConnell has now strung back-to-back impactful games against this Thunder team. And at this point, he's becoming a real problem. Every time he steps into the game, it feels like he's everywhere all at once. His mid-range game is crisp, his finishing ability given his size is remarkable, and he plays at a pace that has completely disrupted Oklahoma City's defensive rhythm. He gets the ball up the floor fast, but under control, and once he's in the paint, he's either scoring or creating an open look for somebody else basically every single time. What makes him so difficult to contain is that he's not just hurting you in one area, it's across the board. He's pulling down tough rebounds, coming up with 50-50 balls that guards are not supposed to have a chance at getting, ones where he's on the floor with your opposing big, but somehow comes up with the ball. He's the first guy diving on the deck, doing all the dirty work, while also being the guy to set up Indiana in these bench minutes. And he does it beautifully. He's so exhausting to play against, especially when you're already trying to deal with Indiana's constant motion and depth. Even in the Game 5 loss, I thought TJ McConnell was brilliant. He single-handedly kept Indiana alive in that third quarter, dropping 13 points in that stretch alone and finishing the night with 18 points on 57% shooting, along with 4 assists and 2 steals. He was just as relentless in Game 6 also, as he was a huge reason as to why Indiana was able to get themselves right back into the game. In that first quarter, TJ once again had an impact all across the board, even pulling down 9 rebounds, which is outstanding. And his energy and purpose lit the fuse on a run that completely blew the game open before halftime. So if the Thunder want to avoid the finals slipping away, they've got to do something about TJ McConnell. If that means keeping him out of the lane, disrupting his rhythm early and often, and just making sure he isn't the one dictating the tempo, they've got to do something. Because if they don't, if they allow him to continue to do what he's done on both sides of the ball in Indiana's wins, they're going to find themselves in serious trouble. He may not be the biggest name on the floor, but right now, he's having the biggest impact on this Indiana team, and he's doing it basically all over the floor. But now, let's shift our focus to Indiana, because if they are going to win Game 7, the first and most important thing they have to do is take care of the ball. The turnover game has been their demon in this series. It's the one thing that could absolutely sink them. Yes, they've had some dominant performances at home in this series, but when you look at Games 1 and 5 on the road, from a turnover standpoint, they were complete disasters. Across those 2 games combined, Indiana threw the ball away 46 times, a staggering number. In Game 1, they were fortunate that the Thunder did not punish them as harshly as they usually do, allowing them to stay in the game and then ultimately win it at the buzzer. But in Game 5, they weren't so lucky. The Thunder turned those mistakes into 32 points just off of turnovers alone. That's a killer in any game, but especially in a finals game on the road. So in Game 7, that cannot happen. Something I mentioned in my instant reaction of Game 6 was that I thought Oklahoma City's energy wasn't where it needed to be. They looked flat, a little lifeless at times, but in Game 7, in their own building, with their fans behind them and everything on the line in this winner-takes-all game, I believe the Thunder defense is going to hit a completely new gear. So for Indiana, the focus has to be precision and composure. Every pass, every possession matters. They certainly cannot get sloppy. They can't let the momentum overwhelm them, because if they start giving OKC those live ball turnovers that quickly turn into fast break dunks or threes, this game would spiral out of control very quickly. What the Pacers want is for the Thunder to have to work for everything in the half court, to grind through Indiana's set defense. That means containing the ball, forcing kickouts to the Thunder's less reliable shooters, contesting everything, and rebounding hard to set their own transition game. If Indiana can force long rebounds and turn over the Thunder, they can get out and run in transition before the Thunder defense even has a chance to get set. Because as we've seen, when the game slows down in the half court, that favors OKC's athletic, swarming defense. But in transition, Indiana has the ability to catch them off guard. So that battle is going to be huge, especially in Game 7, where every single bucket feels like it carries extra weight. Indiana should also be concerned about the health of Tyrese Halliburton. On paper, he still gave you 14 points, 5 assists, and 2 steals on 41% shooting in Game 6, but that stat line doesn't tell you the full story. You could clearly see he was laboring, grimacing up and down the floor, and definitely not moving at full speed because of that calf strain. His availability in Game 7 won't just be about how many points he scores. It'll be about whether or not he can still orchestrate the offense, make smart decisions, and continue to space the floor effectively under all the extra pressure of a rejuvenated Thunder defense. Even at 70 or 80%, just having him out there helps Indiana function more smoothly. But the good news is that because of the Game 6 blowout, he only had to play 23 minutes, which could make all the difference when it comes down to how much he has left in the tank for a Game 7. I also really like what Indiana did with TJ McConnell's minutes in Game 6. They brought him in earlier than usual, pretty early in that first quarter, and that is where the game started to shift. We also saw more minutes than usual with he and Halliburton on the floor together, and that lineup looked pretty good out there. Heading into Game 7, that's something Indiana should look to explore again. Play your best combinations early and often. Figure out who's got it going and ride those players. In a Game 7, you can't afford to sit and wait around. Especially when you're the road team, not everyone is going to have it in that environment. So identifying who has the hot hand early and giving Halliburton longer breaks might be the key. But here's the thing, as much as we expect Oklahoma City to come out flying on defense, it's Indiana who I believe needs to punch first. They have to take it right to the Thunder from the opening tip. If they can force a couple of early turnovers and turn those into transition scores, they can shake OKC's rhythm, confidence, and potentially find their own groove early in the game. That would be the perfect springboard into the meat of the game. We've already seen Indiana win the turnover battle twice in this series, and in both of those games, they really were the better team. In Game 6, they forced Oklahoma City, a team that's led the league with the fewest turnovers all year, into 21 giveaways, turning that into 19 points off turnovers. That was one of the biggest reasons why they won Game 6. So the blueprint is right there. Indiana needs to be the aggressor. They have to come out with the energy, set the tone, and make their offensive possessions as simple and as clean as possible. Because in Game 7, the easier your offense can be, the better chance you have to win the game. And so much of that will depend on how well Indiana can play defense and force turnover. And now it comes down to this. Which version of reality are we about to witness? Will Oklahoma City clean up their mistakes, lock in defensively, and ride their home crowd to a championship? Or will Indiana flip the script once again, stopping the Thunder in their tracks, limiting their transition game, forcing them into half-court struggles, and then finding their own offensive rhythm by turning defense into easy buckets? That is the battle here. Both teams want to do really similar things, which makes this a fascinating chess match. But if I had to give you my prediction, I'm going with the Oklahoma City Thunder to win Game 7. I believe they have the guy, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who can step up and hit the big-time shots when they need them the most. I think playing at home will help him slow the game down, make better decisions, and get others involved more effectively than he did in Game 6. And I also believe that Oklahoma City's defense coming off of a loss, is going to be ferocious right from the opening tip, the same way it's been all playoffs long, as the Thunder are still undefeated following a loss in these playoffs. But the one thing that stops me from locking this pick in with full confidence is Indiana's ability to defy expectations time and time again. They weren't supposed to be in a Game 7 in the NBA Finals, but here they are. And if you want to see exactly how they got here, then you can check out my full Game 6 breakdown video right now.